Well, not at this stage. I think the difference between what we're witnessing here in the UK and what we are seeing in the US with this perceived lack of progress is really down to one specific issue, and that is the paper trail or the email trail. Because when it comes to sort of salacious allegations about what might have or might not have happened behind closed doors in either Jeffrey Epstein's home or different locations, they are very, very difficult to prove so far removed from when they happened. And that can boil down to, on occasions, one person's word against another. What we've got now are investigations into business dealings where there seems to be paper trails, email trails, other messages perhaps between individuals such as, of course, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor during his time as a trade envoy, and then Peter Mandelson during his time as business secretary, when it appears that information was exchanged that breaches the norms of what you would expect someone in high office to do, and you know, it would the passing of sensitive information definitely cross that threshold into criminality. So that's why we're seeing some movement here, Bev, is because this has now become not an investigation so much into the salacious goings on with Jeffrey Epstein and his various houses and islands and whatever, but actually this is a business investigation now into money transactions, information for influence, whatever it might be. That's how we're seeing movement here. And if you get the same kind of thing in the US, if there are individuals who've traded information to Jeffrey Epstein, then that gives an opportunity for law enforcement in the US to move in the same way that they are moving here in the UK.
Well, those pictures we've just seen of Sir Keir Starmer chatting so chummily with his friend Peter, those pictures were shot in that very building behind me in the embassy. It's a big night here for Sir Christian Turner, the new ambassador. It wouldn't have been such a big occasion tonight if this hadn't happened. But let me tell you, anyone who's anyone is going through those doors behind me right now. He is going to be talking this evening. Whether this will feature remains to be seen. He's a career diplomat. He's a civil servant. He's I would say, having met him, a very safe pair of hands for this job, incredibly experienced at negotiations and relationship building. So I am going to bid you farewell, because there is definitely a glass of wine with my name on it, Mark White, behind there, and I will leave the show in the hands of Nana Akua, and I'll be back on Late Show Live tomorrow night at midnight. I'll see you all then.
Thank you, Bev. Look, we've got loads to talk about. I mean, seriously. Let's have a chat to the former detective and civil servant, Kevin Jewell. Kevin, so obviously we have to be very careful because this is a live case. But what I want to know is what kind of vetting process because I know you're also a civil servant, right? So what kind of vetting process would someone go through for a position of high office, just say for one like US ambassador?
Well, the vetting process should be quite intrusive and can be quite lengthy. I myself have been through on several occasions, and it can take several months. But I do know there's pressure on appointments at government level, government ministers and the like that we're talking about, to obviously get those people in place. It's not always possible to get the full vetting done in time, in which case someone generally has to agree to carry the risk, if you like, to indemnify it until it all comes through. So the vetting process that, say, civil servants, that ministers would go through are slightly different, but they can take time. And so the chances of a full vetting process having been undertaken in this particular occasion, I would say, is unlikely.
So what would disqualify someone from being in such a position of high office then?
I mean, that's ultimately for someone else to decide with all the information. But the main thing about the vetting process is to disclose anything, well, to be completely honest with the person that interviews you, to give all the information. And the main point behind it, though, is so that you can't be compromised. So whatever you've done in the past, whatever relationships you're having, what you may have done, as I say, with regards to drug usage. I'm not for one minute suggesting that that's the case with Lord Mandelson, but everything should be disclosed. Relationships, who you associate with, and I say the whole reason being that you can't be compromised and cause embarrassment, or embarrassment caused to you later on down the line.
And how likely is it that the Prime Minister would be given details of pretty much everything that was vetted on an individual?
I would say fairly unlikely. I mean, let's be honest, the Prime Minister is an extremely busy man, so he's not going to sit down and conduct the interview himself. I would say my personal concern in this situation would arise from the fact that there is an urgency and a need to get someone in post. It's very difficult at civil servant level to say no if kind of there, for want of a better word, pressure may be put on that it's got to be done. As I say, someone would have to underwrite that. But it wouldn't be down to the Prime Minister to actually do the questions. He would be reliant on the process, but that's potentially, obviously we can't say at the moment whether that's where it may have fallen down, because the process can take some time with regards to background checks, intelligence searches, interviews taking place, whatever's disclosed in those interviews then being followed up for someone to then put a file together for someone to make a decision.
So it's quite an accident-prone process then, is kind of what you're saying? Because if you can sort of, if the Prime Minister doesn't really look at everything, or I mean, if I were the Prime Minister and somebody was going to be given a really important job, I would go through it with a fine-tooth comb, because my head would be on the block if it all went wrong.
Yeah, well, I mein, people are paid, that is their job, to go through it all and then to present their findings. So, for example, if I put myself in the situation, I would have gone through or did go through a process, and someone within that mechanism, someone high up, who works within that arena all the time, would assess everything and then make the recommendation to my line manager or to the superiors above there. So the same thing would have happened. Yes, ultimately, in this occasion, the Prime Minister appears to be liable because he's made the decision. And I think what's going to come out in time, or what will come out in time, is to how much he did know, how much information he was given, and just as importantly, how much time were civil servants given to conduct the vetting thoroughly, and was any pressure may have been put upon them to come to a certain decision.
Be very interesting, because they're doing that now, so we'll be getting the review and the results of that at some point soon. Kevin Joel, thank you very much. He's a former detective and a civil servant. Right, still to come on The Late Show Live.
I think it's just for the Council to the Inquiry are cataloguing all the epic level of failures, and at the moment we're just hearing how appalling the mental health services and the police forces in Nottingham have been.
Well, that was Emma Webber when she spoke to me earlier today, the incredibly brave mother of Barnaby Webber, who was killed by Valdo Calacane. Well, today, an inquiry into his and two others' deaths, that he was released early because he was black. It's political correctness gone way too far. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. This is The Late Show live with me, Nana Queer. Now, a public inquiry has heard that the Nottingham attacker, Valdo Calacane, was not detained following a violent psychotic episode in 2020 after professionals considered an over-representation of young black men in the detention centre. So that was the reason. Now, Valdo Calacane, who was subsequently sectioned multiple times because of his violent behaviour, then went on to kill 2 university students as well as a caretaker during an attack in June 2023. He also injured 3 others. He was given an indefinite hospital order in 2024 after the murder charges were downgraded to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Earlier today, I caught up with the mother of one of his victims, Barnaby Webber.
I think it's just for the council to the inquiry are cataloguing all the epic level of failures, and at the moment we're just hearing how appalling the mental health services and the police forces in Nottingham have been, and this is leading up to the attack. We're not even touching on the attack or the investigation yet, but it's a lot. But yeah, it's the beginning of nearly 4 months of this.
The incredibly brave Emma Webber. Right, let's bring in my panel. Adam Brooks and Nora Lee Knotson in Washington, D.C., Laurie Watkins. All right, look, I thought we were going to do the nice sort of studio-y thing first and then do it the other way, but OK, let's do it this way. All right, Adam Brooks, what do you think of this? Because I'm finding it as a black female, and I don't like to tell people that because you can see it, and also I don't think it's relevant, frankly. But I hear this and I think, oh, God. Why don't they just look at what he's actually done, how he's behaved? Why is his colour relevant to any of this? Adam.
It wasn't, and this is such a needless and avoidable crime, and my thoughts go out to these families. One of the families actually uses my pub, and they're lovely, lovely people, and this was an avoidable crime if the authorities had done what they had to do and looked past colour. We see with the grooming gangs scandal, many victims could have been avoided if authorities had stamped down on that and not been afraid to be called racist or labelled in any way. And that's what's happening now. We've got to put past that, get past that. Just look at London, some of the knife crime stats. I believe it's 62% of knife crime killers are black in London, yet they make up less than 10% of the population. We've got to stop pandering around certain crimes because of skin colour. If anything, that makes the racism worse, Nana, and it costs lives. And now I just urge the authorities, do your job. Stop worrying about labels. Do your job and save lives.
You'd think they would, but Nora Lee Knotson.
I would agree with Adam. I think what's paramount here is to focus on what is your job. Your job is to protect the community from those who have mental health issues that can put other lives at risk. What you identify as, what religion, what race, you know, what sexuality, none of that matters. It's about the security of the community, and it is tragic to see the consequences of such failures by the health service providers that are supposed to be protecting us.
But it was a succession of events as well. So it was like one person failed, then the other one, oh, he's all right, he can go out. And then in the end, when it finally came to the end, we've got a lot of black people here. Let's not get another one.
He also lied about whether or not he was taking his meds. So you can't really trust people with the mental health issues if they're telling you the truth either.
No, we used to have mental asylums all around the country. And since those have closed, we've got people like this on our streets. There are people, I've seen them in my community, that should not be walking the streets of Essex or anywhere in the UK. They are a danger, but there is nowhere to put them. We need to start looking now at secure units for people with severe mental health and violence like this.
Yeah, Laurie Watkins.
Hi, thank you for having me tonight. So I would agree with everything that the panelists have said, including you, Nana, that you're there to serve and protect. The fact that this individual took 3 lives shows that he is a clear and present danger to the community and those around him, and he needs to be in a facility. In this case, I would say it would be jail here in the United States, where this person is indefinitely, you know, we're going to know that he's not going to be able to be let out because justice was served. And I feel absolutely horrible for the mother and for any of the family members of any of these victims, because it doesn't just, the tragedy just doesn't stop at the incident. It affects and has ripple effects through entire generations even, right? Through those families, through those communities, through their friend groups, etc. And it can have ripple effects through generations. And so, yes, I think more people need to pay attention, meaning law enforcement, to mental health specifically, that there is a difference, and these cases need to be treated as such, not lumped all into one. And I think it's absolutely absurd that they're using race as a qualifier to not separate this person from others in the prison. So yeah, I've never heard that happening here in the United States. So this is something new for me.
Well, and also, being mentally ill doesn't discount you from proper punishment, frankly. I get it that he's obviously... I think if you're going to take someone's life like that, you're not well anyway. So you're not well if you want to kill or murder someone, whether you think you're mentally ill or whether you think you're not. He apparently had paranoid schizophrenia. But, you know, to me, that is actually an irrelevance. It's what he's done, and therefore he should be treated as he should be treated and punished accordingly. I'm wondering, and this probably could be controversial, people say, oh, if somebody's mentally ill, you couldn't put the death penalty on there. Well, I think you can, actually. I think that's, without wishing to be too harsh, somebody like that, he didn't take his meds, he stacked and stashed knives, so there was some premeditation there, and he also lied about taking his medication. So he's obviously sometimes able to be secretive when it is in his own favour, right? Anyone?
Yeah, no, I think we've got to start, in this country, we've got to start putting the human rights of victims and families and normal law-abiding Brits above those that perpetrate these sort of crimes and are a risk to people up and down the country. We've got to get back now to protecting our citizens, and under Keir Starmer and Labour, I can't see that ever happening.
Well, I don't know. Have any of them been any good, though? I mean, Zia, you said, you know, all the other parties are saying stuff about this, but I know Zia spoke about somebody who's coming illegally and how people should be punished properly and all that sort of thing. This doesn't relate to this. I think Victor Valdo-Calacane was here legally. But the point is, I just don't understand why we're so soft on this and why we are believing that race should be a factor in this at all.
I agree with you, Nana. It shouldn't be a factor. What should be a factor is the behavior. And if you look at the second time he went into one of these psychotic episodes, he scared a lady so much by banging on her door, she jumped out of the window, hurt her spine. If that wasn't enough to realize that this gentleman was a risk to society, I don't know what is. And so we have to look at the rules by which they are making their decisions, and it should have nothing to do with race, religion, any sort of identity, but purely their behavior.
And I also think the people in the process of this need to be accountable. So different services allowed him to slip through the net, knowing full well that he wasn't well and that he needed some sort of support and he was a danger. And I think he'd even sort of attacked some people who were looking after him, and they knew he wasn't fit to be let out. They need to be held to account as well.
Yeah, but we're living in a country
really
where you can walk
you
around with a
see
machete
something-
and get a suspended sentence, Nana.
Yeah, I just want to get the thoughts from Laurie, but yeah, we'll come back to that, Adam. Sorry, Laurie.
No problem. I was just going to say that the punishment should fit the crime, right? And in this case, this person, like we're talking about, took 3 innocent lives that will forever be changed. In affected communities, affected your country, and then this is the headline that's now coming out. So I'm pushing back and asking a question to those of you who are over there. Like, what is the blowback that's happening from all of this? Do you think that there's going to be any decision that's going to be changed because the press has come out and this, public story is not a good look at all? And your residents and citizens should be up in arms about this, in my opinion, because now they set a precedent in a way that this could happen again.
Adam Brooks.
Many on the left here will probably make excuses for him. That's the sort of country we're living in now, is where the left do not want to acknowledge these sort of things happen, especially if the person's come from abroad, especially if the person is black or brown. They do not want this out there. They want to bury this. And as I said, these families have lost loved ones. I've lost a loved one to knife crime. You never recover, ever. He has ruined so many people's lives, and it is down to the people that did not do their job and did not see the danger or weren't bothered about actually doing their job. We've got to now get tough on these mental health cases walking about on our streets and on knife crime. I'm an anti-knife crime campaigner. You cannot have people walking around with machetes and a judge giving them a suspended sentence. These people are dangerous. These weapons are like weapons of war. They can take someone's head off, Nana. So we've got to start getting tough. And Zia Youssef, and I've spoke to Reform, they are promising to get tough on knife crime as well.
Easy to say, though, and when you get in power, what will you actually do? I mean, I just find all of this shocking. I never thought that the day would come where it'd be, oh, no, we're not going to arrest you because you're black. Do you know what I mean? I never thought the day would come where they were specifically... I mean, we saw it with the grooming gangs as well. They didn't want to say anything because the men who were doing this were of Pakistani heritage, so they didn't want to do that because then they were scared of being called racist. It's really, honestly, a shocker. Well, listen, I'd love to hear all of your thoughts. Thank you so much, Adam, Nora, and also Laurie. Stay with me. Still to come in the Late Show Live.
Deborah and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making. We're here.
This is the story of the day. Should a man who suffered from Tourette's and used a racial slur during the BAFTAs apologise? And were the BBC wrong to air it? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, welcome to The Late Show, live with me, Nana Akwe. Now listen, make sure you stay with me because just after 1 a.m, Andrew Drury will be live. He's got a front cover on the Daily Express and it's basically about Shamima Begum because apparently she's been sending text messages to him. He's the person who interviewed her in the camps when she was in Syria. She's still there. And she is apparently planning to come here via small boat, which will get he's got the exclusive in the Express, but he will give us a heads up on what that contains. All right, but 34 minutes after midnight, outrage has sparked online after various celebrities condemned an activist with Tourette's after making a racial slur during the BAFTA awards ceremony. Now, John Davidson, he is the man which the award-winning film I Swear was based on, so that's why he was there. And actually, the person who played him won the Best Actor, shouted racial slur whilst actors Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage. Have a listen.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
Now, Wendell Pierce, primarily known for his role in the hit TV series The Wire, responded online saying, "It is infuriating that the first reaction wasn't complete and full-throated apologies to Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan. The insult to them takes priority." Right, now the comment also sparked fierce backlash, with many arguing that he had missed the central point of the film. Let's take a listen at the clip.
I need to speak to you about your language.
Aye, okay.
We have one rule in this house, and that's if you do anything you can't help, you never, ever have to apologise for it. You know, if you're out in the street and, you know, with people who don't understand you, then fine, you know, apologise, whatever. But in this house, where we know you can't help it, you know, where we know you don't mean it, well, it all means diddly squat.
You see, the irony is that the film was about someone with Tourette's and how it is for them, having obviously shouted out some expletives, and how they feel about it and what a difficult condition it is to deal with. Well, let's bring my panel in, Adam Brooks and Nora Lee Knotson. We'll come to Laurie in Washington, D.C. after I've spoken to Nora and Adam. All right, so I'll start with you, Adam.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should he be apologising for that? And are these the guys on stage who have sworn out, they're men of colour, should they really be demanding sort of, or expecting some sort of big apology?
I'm torn with this because the two men, it's obviously, look, you would know, Nana, it wouldn't insult me, obviously, but it's a very, very insulting word for someone of colour. I knew we was going to speak about this today, so I've spoke to two people that know the guy in question that shouted it, and they tell me 100% there's no malice. He cannot help what comes out of his mouth. Yeah. One of them said when they first met him, The words that come out of his mouth were diabolical, terrible. But it's a condition he cannot help. What's happened here is terribly unfortunate. It is offensive to many, and I do believe the BBC should have edited it out. I don't think that is something that should have gone out.
It's disgraceful.
For him to apologise for something that he cannot help. At first, I've got to say, I was thinking, is it something he was thinking and it comes out? These people assure me that's not the case.
No.
Just every which bad word will come out, and unfortunately that did. So no, I do not think he has to apologise for something he cannot help. I think the BBC shouldn't have aired it, and I think maybe the two men on stage need some sort of apology from the organiser. I don't know, but
I don't think they
shouldn't come from the guy.
Nora, what do you think?
I think you're right, Adam. I think the BBC should have edited it out. But of course, this film was about the very illness of Tourette's, which is you say things that are offensive. And what the gentleman did say, he left because he felt so bad about what happened. And then he even did apologize, saying this film was supposed to create the empathy and understanding and kindness towards people with Tourette's. So there was no malice, as you say. It's more highlighting the problem that people experience with Tourette's, and it's painful for them to be in any social situation because you will offend people.
I don't think that he needs to apologise, and I think that those actors should be way more understanding. Even in rap and all that kind of music, they use the N-word because it's cool, and they call each other the N-word because it's cool, because there's no malice meant by it. So if somebody does it with no malice, and you know full well that they're suffering with an illness, they shouldn't apologise. No, I don't think so.
I've got to say, if I was on that stage, it must be quite embarrassing. If someone called me any name,
I think I would laugh. I would go like that, and then I would laugh. Because I understand, right? And I think I would laugh because I know that that's not somebody who hates me and wants to. This is somebody who's ill, and the condition is exactly that. And I'm sure he would call women other words.
But Nana, you're highly evolved as an individual, but sadly the state of the world right now is we are so polarized, and people use any opportunity to latch on to something political that then creates more fury, and that's what we see here, unfortunately.
I worry for his mental health, the guy. Someone's told me they're very worried for him today, and they've reached out because, if he's walked out in embarrassment to what's happened there are people that are putting hate online as well, calling it racism and probably aggressive words. So I worry for his state of mind.
I worry for him as well. It's not racism. I don't think that's racism at all. I think people have missed the point if they think that is. Let's go to Washington, D.C. and speak to Laurie Watkins to get her take on that. Laurie, what do you think?
Agree with everything that y'all have said, but I will give a slight nuance with the BBC. This is where I think the apology should come from, is that they had a 2-hour delay from what I understand. And I just think it's very interesting that they edited a documentary about Donald Trump, which they are now being sued by Donald Trump for $10 billion and actively in litigation about, but they couldn't censor that word in a 2-hour delay, and they played it anyways, and then apologized later. That, I think, is they are responsible. I think they have perpetuated this, made it worse than it needed to be, and we probably wouldn't even have really known about it had that not been aired, and everybody heard it, and then it was made a big deal out of. So I think that part of the blame goes to the BBC for perpetuating this and airing it, period.
I agree with you. And the other thing is he obviously made comments to other people, not just people of colour, but he made other, sort of expletives to other people too. So in context, to understand that he's suffering from a condition, I personally would not have been offended by that. I probably would have laughed because I would have laughed because I know that is not coming from a bad place. And I think that I am actually slightly ashamed of people who are expecting him to apologise. I'm actually disgusted by them. But I'm also with you, Laurie, about the BBC. Why did they not edit it? A bit like Bob Villan. Again, they thought that was fine.
And to that point, actually, the BBC edited a lot of other parts out. They edited Free Palestine out of it. There was apparently 3 hours of footage. So they were very conscious about what they did edit.
Yeah. Well, let's get
that makes me even more upset to hear that. I wasn't aware of that. So see, they selectively edited, and that's what I think people should have a problem with.
Yes.
I agree. I think that if anything, they're the ones who need to be doing something. All right, Laurie Watkins, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. All right, well, still to come in the Late Show Live.
We'll get the Royal Marines to tow the boats back to the French beaches. And
Nigel Farage made a very bold claim today. The Marines in the Channel to stop the boats. Really interested to get your thoughts on that. Let me know. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. This is the Late Show Live, only on GB News.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. This is The Late Show Live with me, Nana Akwe, coming up at just after 1, an exclusive with Andrew Drury, who has written a front cover on The Express about Shamima Begum and some of the messages that they've exchanged, and perhaps she might be trying to get back via a small boat. Stay tuned for that. But Britain is being invaded by migrants. Reform's Home Affairs spokesperson, Zia Youssef, said earlier today that the party has set out its plans to deport all illegal migrants in the country. Nigel Farage made an even bolder claim.
And I have warned Jordan Bardella, who is the bookie's favourite to be the next French president, that after £800 million of British taxpayers' money has been given to the French government to stop these boats from leaving, that if necessary, we'll get the Royal Marines to tow the boats back to the French beaches. And he gulped hard.
So with me now is political strategist and Reform UK board member Wayne Towler. Wayne, so here we have it. He is saying that he's going to seriously deploy people in the Channel and stop the boats, actually stop the boats. Is this what we want to hear?
I'm pretty sure that is exactly what people want to hear. They've been wanting to vote for it for well over a decade now and not got it. So, yeah, it's what people want to hear. I think ordinary people in this country understand that, say you're France and you've got 1,000 kilometres of land border, it's hard to police the border. But we're an island. How hard can that be? And the common sense, just look at the map. It can't be hard. And so what we've had it's just a lack of will. And listening to some people saying, you can't do that, you can't do that, oh, it's too hard, there's international law, there's this, there's that, there's the other. Any excuse rather than do what the people of this country keep on voting for. So all it needs, geography and will, should put it together. And as Farage was saying there, Bardella has, in an interview with The Telegraph last week, has said France will take them back, and that makes perfect sense. Why? Because it's no fun for France and the people of the Pas-de-Calais to have these great refugee camps, sort of thing, these shanty towns along their coast. They don't want them any more than we want them.
Well, they wave them off, don't they?
Well, this thing, if you stop people coming across the Channel and France takes them back, then there's no point in those shanty towns. Because Britain won't accept them.
That's true.
And France will take them back. So the shanty towns end, because there's no point in going to the coast of France. So that's basically, it works. So the Royal Marines will be able to take them back because the French will accept them.
All right, we'll stay there, Wayne Towler. I'm going to bring in my panel. Stay right there. Nora Lee Motson, what do you think about this? Is this reasonable?
I think it's very sound policy. You've got to put law and order as a priority. And if you take them back to France and France is willing to receive them, as we just heard, that will stop the incentive for people to try to come over if they know they're not going to get across. It's that simple.
You'd think it would be, but they don't fancy doing that.
No, I've been speaking about turning the boats round on this channel for 4 years. Initially called racist, and now everyone's sort of joining the party. Look, we have to do this. Australia and Greece have done it. They ignored international warnings. Whatever happened to them? Can you tell me whatever happened to them? They solved their problems. Then Greece went and took it a step further. They put them in tents and give them basically rations. It stopped because the draw wasn't there anymore. The luxury of going into a country illegally, like we've got here, isn't there anymore. We've got to do 3 things. We've got to turn around the boats. We've got to remove the benefits and the draw that's bringing them here, the freebies. And then we've got to start deporting. So they're not going to start paying people traffickers 5,000, 3,000, 2,000, whatever it is, if they think they're going to either get turned around, get here and get nothing, or be deported straight away. The left are so weak on this. And again, the human rights of foreign men are put above the human rights of Brits, and that has got to stop. We know that's happening because the government lawyers told us that during the Bell Hotel court case.
All right, let's bring in Laurie Watkins to the debate as well. So, Laurie, what do you think about this? Let's bring her in. Oh, she's here. Laurie, can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Yeah, Laurie,
I can hear you.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I understand that, the UK is having very similar issues to what the United States was having with the border crisis here, and the citizens are taking stances through elections and through policies and everything else that they have had it. They have had it with the free giveaways, as your other panelists have said, with the taking of jobs, with the, running up the bills for these social services, etc., and committing crimes that we were also talking about at the beginning of the show. So I think that if the country is willing, France in this case is willing to take folks back, then that's probably the best option. But you guys, from being on this show for the past 6 months, this is the #1 issue that I hear from Brits is immigration, that they have had it, that they want reform, and you all are going to have an election soon that I think will be a complete turnaround and show everybody that they've had it. No more Keir Starmer.
What about ice, though? Because you've got ice, yeah, if only. You've got ice, he's clinging on.
Ice.
But you've got ice, haven't you, there? And a lot of people are criticising it. However, once it was installed, Donald Trump has reduced pretty much your illegal migration to about 0. That's what he says. There's probably a few people getting in, but they're all scared of ice.
Sure. So everyone here is scared of ICE because of the tactics they are using. And conservatives like to throw around, well, Laura, you worked in the Obama administration and Barack Obama was the largest deporter-in-chief, they called him. He deported more people than Donald Trump. The difference here is the numbers, he chose to do it in a different way. You did not have ICE agents who were not trained. You did not have ICE agents who were wearing masks and not identifying themselves. You did not have ICE agents then that were terrorizing people in communities and being sent into blue states by the president to cause chaos and mayhem and kill innocent Americans. That did not happen in the Obama administration. So there is quite the difference here of how you handle and how ICE agents act. And so that's here in the United States. I understand you have things differently there, but yes, the immigration is down, but now he's starting to target people within communities, and that includes U.S. citizens, and that is the image. Those are the images that you are seeing across the news.
All right, Gwen, Gwen, what would you say, though? Because that's what Zia Yusuf is talking about bringing in. You've got about 30 seconds.
I don't think it's quite the same. I mean, one, British police don't routinely carry weapons. I don't believe that ICE agents go out deliberately to go and kill people. I just don't believe it. That's just not what they do. However, there have been mishaps, there have been mistakes, bad things have happened. But the British don't go heavy-handed with weapons. It's just not what we do.
All right, thank you very much.
I don't see that being a huge issue in this country.
All right, really good to talk to you all. Thank you so much. Right, stay with me because there's more coming up in the next hour. Andrew Drury will be live about his front pager on the Express. It's all about Shamima Begum. Apparently, she wants to come back via small boat. Weather's next.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud across the UK today, but some sunshine will come through, especially for central and eastern parts of the country where it will be very mild for the time of year. A brisk south to southwesterly wind continues and that will bring a bit more rain by the afternoon into northwestern areas, especially western Scotland where the rain will turn heavy and persistent. However, we'll see increasing cloud breaks through the Midlands, southern and southeastern parts of England, with temperatures here reaching 15 or even 16 Celsius, so remarkably mild for the time of year. Even where we've got the rain towards the northwest, temperatures will be in the double figures, milder for much of Scotland compared with a lot of the weather so far this year. But it's a dreary end of the day for the Northern Isles into the north and northwest of Scotland. The heaviest rain will be over the West Highlands, but not much rain at all for the east and south of Scotland, just a few spits and spots. Northern Ireland, this west-east divide sets up with western parts seeing some rain, eastern areas mostly dry. Areas of cloud running through Wales and western England, but largely dry here, whilst the clearest skies overnight will be through the Midlands, the south and southeast of England. Some mist and fog to wake up to on Wednesday morning, but otherwise it's a largely dry and bright start once again for much of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing that thicker cloud and those outbreaks of rain into Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Eventually those spells of rain will push into Wales and Western England. This is a slow-moving weather front, but a damp day for many northern western parts of the country tomorrow. Meanwhile, plenty of sunshine for the East Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, and it's here where the highest temperatures will be. 17 Celsius most likely. There's a chance we'll see highs of 18 to 19 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening and welcome to The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Akweer. Now,
you know, most young people don't know what they want to do with their lives, and they are very confused, and they can easily fall into things like this.
Could Shamima Begum be the first woman to illegally cross the channel in a small boat? An Express investigation has revealed that her potential plans to be trafficked back into the UK. Now, I've got the journalist who has dropped this bombshell story next. We'll also get an update from Mexico, where violence has erupted after a drug kingpin was killed. Thousands of soldiers have been sent in to try and quell the chaos.
You're honoring not just Lakin, because she's one in a ton of people that have suffered at the hands of illegal immigrants. She's not the only one.
Yeah, earlier today, Donald Trump was speaking to families of victims of crime by illegal migrants. At the same time, Reform UK were announcing their bid to stop the boats. Coincidence? I'm Nana Akweer, and this is The Late Show Live. So welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening, Adam Brooks and Nora Lee Knotson. And in Washington, D.C., Laurie Watkins. Well, we've got quite an incredible story for you this evening. Shamima Begum, remember her, could now be heading back to the UK as she is said to be attempting to pay people smugglers to get her out of a Syrian detention camp and into Turkey. Let's talk to the journalist behind the story, Andrew Drury, who joins me now. Andrew, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for staying up. A big exclusive on the front cover of The Express. Tell us more.
You wouldn't believe it, would you? It's hard to believe. I've had messages coming back
this evening saying this can't be true, but it is. I can take you back to the beginning, how it started and how it evolved. Around about October time, I received a normal message I get from Shamima and Hoda, her best mates. They're kind of inseparable. Just a normal hello, how are you message. Hope things are fine. It's generally fishing for something. I said, I'm fine. The message would go away. A week or two later, I got another one saying, Shamima would like to start trusting you again. I mean, what a cheek. She'd like to trust me again. She'd like to start maybe talking, and if you want to interview her, maybe we could have an exclusive. But that has a big question mark. She wants 35,000. She never said money or anything else. She wants 35,000. I've said to Hoda or Shamima, whoever I was talking to, it's not ethical. I wouldn't do that. And then Hoda said that lots of things happen in this camp that aren't ethical. And we've been talking to media outlets already. They've agreed sums of money with her. But I can convince Shamima to just be you. I've disagreed. Then a week or two later, I've had another message saying, look, how about it? And then she described the money as gummy bears. Hoda wanted 15,000 gummies and Shamima wanted 15 mints. And she would then guarantee that Shamima would give me the one and only interview that she would give once she's on the outside. I said, look, I'll come to the camp and talk to you. Let me come in. And she says, no point. Drop the money outside and I'll arrange for it to be dropped out. Because what we intend to do is to cross over into Turkey and go to our embassies, because that's what people do. They go to their embassies. And when we get to our embassies, we're going to claim asylum and come back. This left a real heavy burden with me, a weight on my shoulders. It was information I had to do something with. So I contacted my well-known local MP and said to him that I've got information, I've got to give it to you. There's people smugglers, people being taken out of ISIS, prisoners taken out of camps, been brought potentially over to Great Britain. He told me, my MP, to speak to the Chief Commissioner of Surrey Police. Well, a nonsense. The only other place I went was to the intelligence. I called the intelligence services. I left a message on the answer phone. No one got back to me. I then contacted Richard, my journalist friend, who spoke to Westminster, 2 MPs, 1 Labour, 1 Conservative, didn't do anything with it. So I didn't really want this story coming out. It was too big, but it's too big not to be told. And that's where I am now, telling this story to you, Nana.
Wow, thank you, Andrew, for giving us the TV exclusive on that as well. So, Andrew, this is interesting there. So these were a series of text messages, were they, that she was sending, and a friend that you say they're kind of joined at the hip?
Yeah, they are. Everywhere that Shamima goes, Hoda goes with her. So it would have been Shamima talking through Hoda. But I consider them both very... They were like... I was being groomed. That's what it felt like. Obviously, I can't be, but I was being groomed. She was kind of pushing me into doing it, pushing me to have this information about this money, thinking it would be too big. I couldn't tell anybody. It was like our little secret. She made it. She said, this is between you and me kind of thing. So she was grooming. These people are dangerous. These girls are dangerous. And another reason I wanted the story to come out is also I learned over the last sort of 2 months, we've brought back 2 potentially dangerous prisoners back into the country. It's not hidden. We've not told, it's not been announced, but 2 prisoners I interviewed in Roche Camp are back in the UK now, without anybody knowing where they are or what's happened. And words has been ringing with me just recently about Shamima is what Sajid Javid said. If we knew what he knew, we would never want her back. I think it's about time we knew what he knew. Why are we being hidden? And I'm just frustrated. I'm frustrated by our government. I'm frustrated. The fact is we've got open access into our country. I've given them details of smugglers or where they can find them. They do nothing. As part of the Shamima being smuggled out, how many other people have come over?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's frightening.
It's absolutely frightening. Andrew Drury, thank you so much for staying up. Your exclusive is in The Express. If you want all of the details on that big story, huge story, well done, Andrew. Thank you very much for giving us the TV exclusive here on GB News. Much appreciated. Good evening. Thank you, Andrew. That was Andrew Drury. He got interviews with Shamima. He's spoken to her in the camp, and she had been contacting him. It sounds like she was trying to get into the UK. Right, let's find out what the panel make of that. Let's see. Well, I'll start with you, Nora Lee Notson. Wow, Shamima Begum.
It's very disturbing, and this just further underscores our need to secure our borders and really not tolerate allowing not only illegal immigrants in, but known criminals back into this country. It's really disturbing.
Adam Brooks.
Let's remind ourselves what Shamima Begum said in an interview once. She said that UK kids and children were legitimate targets. This is a young woman that has seen beheadings and torture and killings and said she did not regret going there. It didn't faze her. She is evil personified. And look, when leftists say, oh, she deserves to come back, you stick her next to their house and see how safe they feel. As I said, and Andrew said the same thing, I've spoke to someone in authority before who said if we knew what they knew, you would not want her in this country. She's a dangerous woman. And it pains me that she's getting offered possibly tens of thousands of pounds for her story or some sort of exclusive. It really does, because, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if this Labour government sneak her back in some way.
No, did you think they'd do that? Because the thing is, she's stateless, and if she claims that she's a refugee, they then have to treat her like a refugee, even though she's stateless, and, you know, that's how it works. As soon as she says, I've come to claim asylum, that's that.
She's a national security risk. And let me tell you, if she got smuggled over in a dinghy or via boat on this channel, the protests would be off the chart in this country, because it would prove that dangerous people are crossing day in, day out. We know that anyway, but a big name like Shamima Begum, it would just highlight the dangers of what we're being put through.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was the BBC on their Sounds that did I'm Not a Monster podcast with Shamima Begum and gave her a little slot. Josh Baker, was the journalist who interviewed her for the I'm Not a Monster series too. It's just an absolute shocker that the BBC would be doing anything like that. Let's go now to Washington, D.C. and have a chat with Laurie Watkins, because it would be interesting to hear how the Americans deal with people like this. So Shamima Begum, I'm not sure if you're aware of this story, but she basically fled the UK at the age of 15 with two other friends and joined ISIS, basically. So she became an ISIS bride. While she was there, she spoke about how she's seen beheadings and she wasn't bothered about it. Do you know what I mean? The two other friends apparently are dead. 3 of her children that she had in the camp died, and she was made stateless by the British government, or her citizenship was basically removed, and now she's kind of trying to head back here and claim asylum.
There have been cases of many people being radicalized here in the United States and going on to go overseas to commit terrorist activities or join terrorist proxy organizations, etc. And they're handled, if they ever tried to come back into the United States, as my fellow panelists said, as a national security threat, right? That they would not be allowed in. There would be serious vetting, and if they found that they committed crimes, they most likely would be they would try to indict them here with a grand jury to try to get criminal or civil penalties against them if they did commit those crimes, especially if they murdered somebody. But these are not new instances. I mean, we're across the Middle East, we've been hearing about this for decades, particularly in Pakistan, for example, something that's going on in Balochistan. The BLA and BLF are taking these women and grooming them. This is slightly different than this woman willingly going over there. But you hear these cases all the time where women are trafficked or women are forced into doing things like them becoming suicide bombers, etc. This is slightly different, I think, than this case. This woman willingly, she was radicalized. She willingly left her country. She willingly moved over to Syria to join these camps. And it sounds like she was absolutely radicalized in the process. And these tricks and twists and turns that she's trying to pull behind the scenes, I am very concerned, especially with the video footage that you showed. And that journalist, I think, did the right thing. Andrew did the right thing by contacting the authorities. And I I'm really disappointed to hear that so many did nothing, that they didn't even call him back. That's outrageous in my opinion. Here we're talking about, you know, a case at the beginning of the show about a prisoner, a criminal that was moved somewhere because of his race, and now you have stories of people calling the authorities with credible evidence and information, and they're not choosing to do anything about it.
Yeah,
time is of the essence. So what if this woman does get smuggled back, right? And there were all of these red flags that were raised, and nobody did anything.
Well, we've got Patrick Christie here that uncovered not grooming gangs. What are they?
Illegal camps.
Illegal camps and people that were smuggling, people smugglers, that were smuggling people over here. And I don't believe Patrick ever heard back either. He had evidence and infiltrated different groups. So if journalists can do it, our Home Office and our authorities can do it. They just don't seem to want to do it. That is the problem.
And the other problem is if she then sort of comes here and says, I'm claiming asylum, well, what can we do with that? I mean, Nora, what can we do if she comes back and says that?
No, which just further underscores why we've got a big problem, why we need reform, why we need change. And if anything, this just helps Nigel Farage and the plans that they have to secure our borders.
Agreed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it will be a shock if she does manage to make it back to the UK. I think there'd be outrage, but then we would have to keep her here. I can't see how they'd be able to deport her because, hey, she hasn't got anywhere to be deported to. So this is where...
we need a Rwanda.
That's why we need a Rwanda, exactly. But the Labour government didn't really think of that. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
We have a human rights lawyer as our Prime Minister who will probably end up gifting her a council house rather than putting into some detention centre. That is how crazy and how far we've gone in this country. Again, these sort of people have more rights than me or you know, and it has to stop. And hopefully reform, turn that round and sort out the civil service as well.
I hear you, but a lot of them came in saying with big words when they were in opposition, though, didn't they? I mean, we had the Labour Party just laughing and saying, oh, the way you're handling migration. The first thing they did was get rid of Rwanda. You had the Tories acting as though they were going to do something and never really did anything. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I'm hoping that another party will be honest about it, but I'm not sure whether Reform UK can actually do what they say they're going to do, especially if we end up with the border force who go, ooh, or an army or whoever it is that they try and use to stop the boats, then start becoming all DEI on us, which is what happened with Border Force, Adam. I mean, do you remember that thing when Border Force didn't want to do what was required?
Well, they should lose their jobs. If the elected government of this country tells the civil service or our authorities they have to implement certain policies or certain actions, they must do it. Otherwise, they should be sacked. We cannot have the civil service running this country and unions, and that is what is happening right now. So sometimes it doesn't matter what government you have in charge, these people underneath have so much power, and that all stems from Tony Blair. He weaved in this system when he was in power and took away a lot of power away from elected officials. And reform have to come in under Nigel Farage and rip that up and start again. Otherwise, this country is going to go to the dogs.
Well, you know, Zach Polanski, he's got a very different idea of all of that. I think he just wants to open the borders and let just anyone in and no sort of checks. But I mean, you need to look at the manifestos of each of those parties. But look, Shamima Begum, I don't know whether she's going to... she's obviously on... I suspect she is on manoeuvres. I don't know whether we've got a clip of a part of an interview that we had with... that Andrew had with her. I mean, she is quite a... I think quite a dangerous individual. Just have a listen to this.
Message for me to send back to people at home, what would it be? If you said, because you think people never believe anything about you, or what about your mum?
I don't know.
Your mum must. Your mum.
I don't have any messages. I'm like tired of giving messages and not being believed.
What? To even to your own family?
Yeah. If I give a message to my family, I want it to be face to face, not over the media. You know, that's very private.
Maybe then I could give that private message for you one day.
No, it's very. My family are very private people, and I respect their privacy.
Yeah, but
so
I mean, they must, as a mum, she must be wanting to know if you're safe or anything. Because my daughter would be able to kind of mainly want to be.
I guess she just like watches the media and hopes that a day never comes where she hears that I die.
Right, so look, you can find out more on that big story, front cover of the Express. That was Andrew Drury. He's the guy who collaborated with another gentleman, Richard Ashmore, and they've written an exclusive in the Daily Express about Shamima Begum potentially wanting to come back to the UK and potentially on manoeuvres. Do not miss that one. But it's 17 minutes after 1 o'clock. Martin Lewis, remember him, the money man, often described as Britain's most trusted man, diminished his innocence this morning when he burst onto the set of Good Morning Britain, interrupting an interview with the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch whilst on the topic of student loans. Take a listen.
This is off. Is Martin Lewis has come into the studio. Here we go.
The middle-learning students. If you want to help the middle-learning students, the most important thing is the repayment threshold should have been increased. When the Tories brought this in, it was a graduate contribution system.
This is exactly why young people are suffering. We've got lots of people who finished university when they didn't have to pay fees, didn't have to take out loans, and now you're all saying, oh, nothing can be done, don't do this.
I'm not saying nothing can be done, I'm saying what you should do.
Well, I'm the first person who's even trying to solve this problem.
Shall we have a chat about it? Because I think you've got the right idea, but this is not a solution that will help the middle-learning students.
So Martin Lewis burst in on that interview and gave his 2 penny worth on student loans. What do you make of student loans? I had a student loan. It was only about £3,000. It was a long time ago when I left university. I managed to pay it off in a couple of years because it wasn't really that much. Now they're leaving with £100,000 worth of debt, and they also are unlikely to pay it back because the parameters keep shifting. What do you make of the student loans, Adam Brooks?
I cannot believe that students come out of university with such huge debts. I think the system needs ripping up and starting again. It just doesn't make sense that you want to progress in life and learn, and you're effectively put in a debt trap for doing that. It doesn't make sense, but that's where we are. Look, I think now, my son is 16. A lot of young kids are going into trades. He's learning to do an electrician course. A lot of kids do not want to go to university, especially and be brainwashed by left-wing lunatics and have their politics, forced on them either. So I think we're going to see a real influx of tradesmen over the next 5 years. And that's a good thing because we need to get Britain working again. A lot of these universities teach things that they're never going to learn. I mean, some of the people that come out of these universities, they might be intelligent on paper, but they've got nothing at all up there. And some of these people go on to run the country. So, look, we need to get real people working again, real work, real trades, and we need to start looking at this student loan because how can people who generally want to get on in life, become doctors, become physicians or whatever, end up coming out of university with £60,000, £70,000 in debt? Right. That is wrong.
I just want to ask Laurie Watkins, in America, how does it work there? Do students get loans or how does it work when people go to university?
Yes, many students here are also crippled when they graduate from a university or college, that they have an insurmountable amount of debt where and the predatory loan practices that are here in the United States are also just outrageous. The fact that you get a young person to sign away where, 5, 6 years later, the terms change and it's like an interest-only loan, worse than a mortgage on your home, okay? So it's like a ball and chain wrapped around their ankle for the rest of their life. And it's absolutely outrageous and hurting people, hurting this generation. And yes, more and more people here in the United States also are choosing to go learn trades, start out at a community college, make sure that the major that they've selected is the one that they want to go into. But for all those young people out there, if you're watching late at night over in Great Britain, I just want to say do internships. The way I was able to figure out what I really wanted to do in my career, even though I was in college, was I did internship after internship, and that's really how I figured it out. But I also worked for a member of Congress where I utilized the forgiveness for student loans payments. So some of that money was taken out of my pay and also the congressman's office chose to match that as a repayment for my student loans. So as a public servant, there were options for me that weren't really advertised around the halls of Congress, but through staffers talking to one another. I went to my member and I said, hey, this is available. Would you be interested in supporting me in this? I pay the taxes on it. You pay. I'm not making as much as if I were to work in the private sector. He understood that. And there are programs if you're a public servant here in the United States that still exist. So I implore people to look at that too. But overwhelmingly, people are just coming out of college with insurmountable debt. And it causes anxiety and stress and tension. And some of them go into jobs that they don't want, that they don't even like, because they feel that they have to pay these back.
Well, I was with you until the bit where you said that some of them go into jobs they don't like. My heart bleeds. At one point, I was selling knives as an in-store demonstrator in a supermarket, so I don't feel any sympathy for that. Nora, your thoughts?
I did a lot of bad jobs, Nana.
You did that as well.
Yeah.
Nora Lee Notson.
Bad, yeah.
I would agree with what everybody said, and I studied in the U.S., and as we know, education in the U.S. is exorbitant. You'll pay into the six figures to come out of a four-year program, and it's really difficult to try to pay that off when you're first starting off. It can knock, your ability to pursue what you really want to do. But I do agree with some of that advice, is that, one, do internships. Two, a lot of people in the U.S. I know worked when they were at university, and that was a way to defray the cost. And then a lot of them ended up taking jobs where they helped to pay off their loans.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't want to do that to start, but they looked at it as a way to get debt-free and then move on to what they truly wanted to do. But you don't want to hinder your young people and burden them with a lot of these mental health issues that you were talking about earlier, Lori, where you have stress and anxiety because you're just starting off, you think the world's your oyster, and now you've got a big, debt to pay off.
I feel really sorry for students these days.
Let's remember that Labour promised many years, or not, it wasn't many years ago, it was a few years ago, to scrap tuition fees.
Oh, yeah.
And all they've done is put them up. So it's another Labour lie. As well, but Scotland, do they pay fees in Scotland?
I don't think they do, actually.
So look, why can't we do that here?
I don't know, loan companies making money and people moving the parameters is a nightmare. Well, listen, stay with us, because moving on to Mexico, which has been rocked by violence after the country's most wanted cartel boss, known as El Mencho, was killed in a military operation reportedly backed by US intelligence. Now, the leader of the New Generation cartel died alongside 8 other members, whilst 25 National Guard troops were also killed in retaliatory attacks in the state of Jalisco. His death triggered a wave of unrest, with buses and buildings set alight and clashes breaking out with the security forces. President Claudia Sheinbaum said that peace, security and normalcy is being maintained across the country despite the violence. The US State Department has urged American tourists to seek shelter and remain in residence or hotels. The department is also running a 24/7 crisis hotline for US citizens impacted by the unrest. Hundreds of tourists have also found themselves stranded in airports. For God's sake, if you're going on holiday to Mexico, I'd have a rethink after some flights of Puerto Vallarta were suspended. Well, I'm now joined by the former president of the Mexican Commission of Human Rights, René Bolio. René, thank you so much for joining me. So how powerful was this cartel boss? Because it sounds as though he's literally, if it's not the president there, he sounds like he's running the country.
Well, it's very powerful. Thank you for having me. The cartels in Mexico has been increasing their power in the last 30 years. But since López Obrador in 2018 took the presidency of Mexico, their power not only increased, but they became part of the government. They imposed mayors, governors, congressmen. They imposed a lot of candidates and, of course, members of our government. So they not only part of the government, they control a lot of decisions, judges, and they have infiltrated many parts of our legal system, and they have a complete army. They have weapons, very modern, very powerful. They have drones, they have bazookas, they have a lot of weaponry, and that it's tolerated by our government until yesterday.
Yeah, so, I mean, apparently they have people who work with them, so employees. I'm wondering if they pay tax, you know, but it does sound like the government have decided that this is enough. Enough is enough with this cartel boss. What will happen in its place? Are you likely, is this like a Medusa head, where you chop off one of the snakes and then a load of others come in, so you just opened a can of worms? Or do you think your government will actually be able to get a hold on the cartels and kind of take back control, as it were?
Well, it's very important because you have to start somewhere. And the intelligence and all the reports about this operation came from the U.S. We have the collaboration of the U.S. government, U.S. intelligence office, and as well as American forces that came to train our Mexican forces. Our Mexican army is so happy to finally can start an offensive against those cartels. And I think it's not only a change, because I don't know if you remember our former president López Obrador says hugs, not shots. Abrazos, no balazos. So he tried to convince and try to be friends with the cartels. Of course, it didn't work. And right now we saw a very complete operation. A lot of our army members lost their lives trying to get this kingpin, and it happened because of the American pressure. It didn't happen because it was a free decision of the Mexican government. And of course, Claudia Sheinbaum tried to avoid in this year and a half she's been in the presidency. She tried to avoid all the contact, the physical contact with the kingpins of these cartels.
Wow. Well, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see how that progresses. I would like to see Mexico get hold of itself and be able to take back control. René Bolio, thank you very much. He's the former president of the Mexican Commission of Human Rights. René, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. All right, let's bring in my panel. Adam Brooks, Nora Lee-Knotson, and in Washington, D.C., Laurie Watkins. I'll start. Nora, now, I know you wanted to say something about this.
Yeah, I grew up on the border to Mexico, and it's really tricky to deal with the cartels. So it took a $15 million bounty on his head and a lover's confidant to actually get to him. And obviously with the help of the U.S., as Mr. Bolio said earlier. But once you get one, well, one of his sons is in jail in the U.S., so that son won't take over. I think he's got 2 other potential sons who could take over but don't have experience. But now there's 5 other cartel guys that are going to be fighting amongst themselves. So the violence will skyrocket. It will get a lot worse before it gets better. And this is what we saw with El Chapo as well, when he was taken out. So I worry for people there in Mexico right now. I worry for people on the border. And it is so entrenched as well with business, with the police. In fact, El Mencho used to be working for the police until he went to the other side. So it's all intertwined. And people are scared that their families are going to get taken out if they were involved in this right now. So a lot of people are not sleeping well.
Look, I think Mexico's known as one of the most dangerous countries in the world for crime. So last year in 2025, the Mexican authorities warned their citizens about coming to the UK and London because of the increased rate of crime here. So that's very telling for someone like Sadiq Khan, how bad London has got, that countries like that, their authorities, warn their citizens about coming here. So,
Laurie Watkins in Washington, D.C. Let's get her take on this as well. Laurie.
Yes, I would agree with the sentiment that Nora Lee just shared about that things are only going to get worse. Yes, you had El Chapo that was taken out. You had, well, I believe he's still in custody. Then you have El Raton, who was earlier this year, early 2026, that he was taken into custody as well. So you have these terrorist organizations, these groups that are coming together. They're fighting over control. They're fighting over territory. And I do agree that it's only going to be worse. I had friends that were Canadians that were in Puerto Vallarta as a family. They were, thank God, they were able to leave on Saturday night. All hell broke loose on Sunday. I had other friends that were there at a wedding. They're still there. They can't get out. They're sheltering in place. But something else that I saw on X that was really troublesome to me for some of these major companies, hoteliers like Marriott and Westin, for example, that they were telling people, can you believe this, Nana, that they were telling people that they couldn't have a late checkout. So all hell is breaking loose. The airport is under attack. People are running onto the tarmac. Cars are being lit on fire. The Costco is up in flames. And they're asking, can we please, we need to shelter in place. Can we stay in our hotels past the time? And the hotel has told them no.
Wow. Wow.
Isn't that absurd?
It's brutal.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Brutal.
I saw so many reports of this about Marriott and Westin. But people are there. They're hoping for the best, that they will be safe in these resorts. But what I find so interesting is that they're lighting things on fire. They're causing chaos. They're putting blockades, taking down, making sure that the roads and access points can't be utilized, probably, you know, not just on the short term, maybe for the long term. And they're not going and thank God, by the way, they're not going and spraying, you know, communities or downtown areas or tourist areas. They're pretty contained to just causing destruction right now, but I don't think that that's going to last the longer that this goes on. And that is what Claudia Sheinbaum really has to pay attention to right now.
She really does.
Yes, you took out this person, but what's the plan? What's the long-term what's the long-term plan for the people in Mexico that this doesn't continue to spread to other states?
Well, that was the point I was making as well, that you cut off one head, it's like a Medusa, and loads more suddenly pop up and it's totally uncontained. Do you remember her? They used to call me that when I had plaits in my hair. I actually went to Mexico once. I won't be going back because I got robbed when I was there. Cancun.
Can you imagine the billions that this is going to cost the tourism industry in Mexico?
Of course.
For years to come. Who is going to want to take their family there? It's a risk.
All right, we'll just stay with this. Still to come on The Late Show Live.
You're honoring not just Lakin because she's one in a ton of people that have suffered at the hands of illegal immigrants. She's not the only one.
Well, earlier today, Donald Trump was speaking to families of victims of crimes by illegal migrants. At the same time, Reform UK were announcing their bid to stop the boats. We'll talk to a mum whose daughter was killed by an illegal migrant. First, let's get your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud across the UK today, but some sunshine will come through, especially for central and eastern parts of the country where it will be very mild for the time of year. A brisk south to southwesterly wind continues and that will bring a bit more rain by the afternoon into northwestern areas, especially western Scotland where the rain will turn heavy and persistent. However, we'll see increasing cloud breaks through the Midlands, southern and southeastern parts of England, with temperatures here reaching 15 or even 16 Celsius, so remarkably mild for the time of year. Even where we've got the rain towards the northwest, temperatures will be in the double figures, milder for much of Scotland compared with a lot of the weather so far this year. But it's a dreary end of the day for the Northern Isles into the north and northwest of Scotland. The heaviest rain will be over the West Highlands, but not much rain at all for the east and south of Scotland, just a few spits and spots. Northern Ireland, this west-east divide sets up with western parts seeing some rain, eastern areas mostly dry. Areas of cloud running through Wales and western England, but largely dry here, whilst the clearest skies overnight will be through the Midlands, the south and southeast of England. Some mist and fog to wake up to on Wednesday morning, but otherwise it's a largely dry and bright start once again for much of England and Wales. Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, seeing that thicker cloud and those outbreaks of rain into Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Eventually, those spells of rain will push into Wales and Western England. This is a slow-moving weather front, but a damp day for many northern western parts of the country tomorrow. Meanwhile, plenty of sunshine for the East Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, and it's here where the highest temperatures will be. 17 Celsius most likely. There's a chance we'll see highs of 18 to 19 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to The Late Show Live. Reform UK Home Affairs spokesperson, that's Zia Youssef, has made a major announcement today outlining plans to introduce an agency to ensure the removal of all illegal migrants from the UK. Dubbed Operation Restore Justice, Zia Youssef said a new deportation command would track down, detain and deport all illegal migrants. He made reference to Amy Houston, a 12-year-old girl killed by an illegal migrant in 2003 who was spared deportation because it would impact his right to a family life. This is what he said.
Consider the heartbreaking case of a 12-year-old girl called Amy. Mohammed Ibrahim, a man who had no right to be in this country, a man who was driving while disqualified, struck little Amy in a devastating hit and run. He did not stop his car. He did not rush to her side. He didn't call for help. He left a 12-year-old girl dying under the wheels of his car, and he fled like a coward.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump hosted families at the White House whose loved ones were killed by illegal migrants. He used an occasion to designate the 22nd of February as National Angel Family Day, commemorating the killing of college student Laken Riley's death in 2024. Here was her mother.
I just can't thank you enough. You have said from the beginning, literally the day after this happened, that you would not forget about Laken. Laken was the most responsible, hardworking, kind, selfless, beautiful Christian. I'm beyond blessed and thankful that you're honoring not just Laken, because she's one in a ton of people that have suffered at the hands of illegal immigrants. She's not the only one.
No, she certainly wasn't the only one, as Tammy Nobles, the mother of Kayla Hamilton, who was murdered by an illegal migrant. Well, she joins me now. Tammy, thank you so much for joining me. Really good to talk to you. Tammy, let's talk about what happened to Kayla, because this is... her killer did plead guilty in the end to first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 70 years behind bars, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. But he shouldn't have been in the country in the first place, and that is awful. Can you tell us what happened?
Her murderer came as a unoccupied alien child seeking asylum, and he was scared for gaining activity in his country. He was 16, he was almost 17 years old. We found out that he was flagged as an MS-13 gang member. He also had a criminal record in El Salvador in 2020 for illicit gang activity. All of that should have prevented him from coming across the border. All Homeland Security and Health and Human Services had to do was make that one phone call to El Salvador to find this information out. It took the local detective who was working on her case to call El Salvador and find this information out. And these aren't just children coming across the border. Anyone from the age of 12 to 17 can be known gang members and can be a threat to other children coming across the border and a threat to the community of American citizens living here in the United States. Kayla was, oh, sorry.
No, go on, sorry, you carry on.
Kayla was working. She just got off the night shift. She was in her room, sleeping in her bed. He came and busted, broke into her room. He strangled her with the phone charging cord, and he sexually assaulted her, tied her hands up, and left her on the floor like trash, and went to lunch with his half-brother like nothing happened. And she just celebrated her 20th birthday 3 days before. So she's only spent 3 days being 20 years old.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Now, I know that she was diagnosed with autism as well, wasn't she? So,
Yes, so she had to overcome lots of obstacles. She can live on her own. There are some people that don't understand autism. They can live on their own. They're just like everyone else. If I knew she could not live on her own, I would have not allowed her to live on her own. She had every right to live on her own and live the life that she wanted to. Her and her boyfriend stayed out of trouble. They didn't do drugs. They didn't know any gang members. They just kept to themselves, and trouble found them.
How do you feel about ICE? A lot of people criticising. However, even though there's some Americans have been killed, it's actually been a success, hasn't it?
It has. ICE has been had worked really hard deporting these murderers. These are criminals that a lot of people are protecting. Like, you're protecting Kayla's murderer. Even though he was 16 years old, he wrote a letter in jail. He wrote it to a priest in El Salvador. He admitted to being an MS-13 gang member, and he admitted to 4 murders and 2 rapes. And he was almost 17 years old.
And sorry, you carry on. Sorry, please.
No, I'm sorry. We need to protect citizens. We should not be protecting these criminals that are coming here. Kayla should have been protected.
And of course, he was seen by Kayla's boyfriend leaving, and they were in close proximity, weren't they? They were on a similar park or something where they all lived, and he was actually there. Is that right?
Okay, so Kayla and her boyfriend were renting a room in a mobile home with another family they knew. They knew this family. They had a small child. So there is a priest, so-called priest in Maryland, who is an illegal immigrant also, bought these mobile homes. His cousin was renting them out, and we found out that this rent lady knew Walter from El Salvador, and she gave this 16-year-old a room to rent, and she picked Kayla's mobile home. Okay. You picked a mobile home with 2 women and a child, and they had no say in it. Kayla and her boyfriend knew something was wrong, but he was only living there for 5 days before, she was killed. So they had no time to move. So, yeah.
Look, it's really good to talk to you. I'm with you. I think it's so important that these people shouldn't just be allowed to, A, roam free, and secondly, should be vetted properly, and protect the rights of the people who live in America, who are American citizens, should be protected over any illegal migrants. Thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. That's Tammy Nobles. She's the mother of Kayla Hamilton, who was murdered by an illegal migrant. Thank you so much. Right, well, let's speak to Media Director at the Federation for American Immigration Reform, Ira Mellon. I think I've got that right. Is that how I say it? Mellman. Is that right?
Yes, Ira Mellman. Ira
Mellman. Ira, do you think that ICE has been, on the whole, a positive thing? Because we are, Zia Youssef, the leader of he's a spokesperson for Immigration for Reform UK. I'm sure I've got his title slightly wrong, but, he is putting forward a strategy for something similar to ICE. Obviously not the same, because in this country we don't carry guns. But do you think that is, even though ICE has had its issues, it's actually been quite effective?
Yes, ICE is doing the job that they are supposed to be doing. They are removing people who are in the country illegally. And as you've heard from some of these families, from Kayla's mother and from others, there is a real price to be paid for the failure to enforce our immigration laws. Those laws exist for a very good reason. They are there to protect the American public. Under the Biden administration, we had 10 million people at least who entered the country with virtually no vetting, released into the streets. And, you know, the president's proclamation today is a reminder to the American public exactly what the cost is, that enforcement is necessary. And even if it does not entail violent criminals, it has an impact on everybody else. When you have millions of people coming into the country looking for housing, putting their kids in school, using social services, it affects the lives of everybody. And that's precisely why these laws exist. And, you know, we are dealing now with Congress refusing to fund DHS, primarily the Democrats refusing to fund DHS because they don't like immigration enforcement. They need to be talking to people like Kayla's family. They are the ones who can tell them what it costs not to enforce our laws. And, you know, in spite of the criticism, it needs to be done.
Well, President Trump has managed to sort of get illegal immigration, down to pretty much zero, is what he says. I mean, some people might sneak through, but I don't think they want to sneak through because they know the consequences. Do you think that the UK should be doing something similar?
Well, as the Shadow Secretary was saying earlier in that clip, that yes, you know, it affects Britain, it affects every country on earth. You know, we're seeing this not just in the United States, but in all of these countries where we've seen mass migration over the past couple of years. All across Europe, there is turmoil. There, you know, you go to places like Sweden, which were among the safest societies in the world. Now, all of a sudden, they're dealing with bombings. They're dealing with all kinds of sex crimes. These are the sorts of things that happen when you open up your borders. And it's a reminder, laws exist. The laws, the immigration laws, whether they're in the United States and Europe, they exist to protect the interest of the people of those countries. These are public policies. They should serve and protect public interests.
All right, Ira Melman, thank you very much. He's the media director at the Federation for American Immigration. Thank you so much. All right, let's bring in my panel. I want to have a chat. Actually, let's start with should we do Adam Brooks? We'll come to you, Adam, briefly. Adam, what are your thoughts on this?
It just mirrors what is happening here. I'm like a broken record. We are importing people, men, from cultures far different from our own. Ones that, you know, will walk down an African street and see a head on the side of the road. They're desensitised to violence, and we're putting them in hotels amongst our communities. We've got people from countries where women are treated like third-class citizens. Not even that. And violence against women is accepted. Sexual behaviour with children is accepted by many. And our authorities think it's OK to put these sort of people amongst our women, children and our families. No, and that is why I'm so passionate about stopping this illegal immigration, mass deportations, and stopping the draw for them to get here and a life on our tax money. Look, illegal immigration, I'm posting crimes, whether it be someone charged, arrested, sentenced, every day on my social media, and the left still deny it. You cannot deny these numbers. These men are disproportionately committing certain crimes, and a lot of them sex crimes. And we need to address that. There's nothing racist in pushing back. If they shouldn't be in this country, they need to leave. They need to be deported. And our human rights lawyer of a Prime Minister puts his fingers in his ears and shouts that we're all far right for wanting such things to happen. It's so messed up, and it looks like the Western world has got this problem throughout. And you know, my love to the families of people that have lost loved ones.
Well, you say that, but it seems like America have got it sorted, Laurie, haven't they? I mean, they've managed to President Trump has gone in, and within a very short time, he seems to have the problem licked. What do you think about what you see in the UK?
I don't think that President Trump has it licked. It's precisely, he hasn't figured it all out. And I will push back to what Ira said, that Democrats are against immigration reform or ICE or, you know, rounding up illegal aliens and immigrants, whatever the terms he likes to call them. That is the continuation of polarization here in this country, which is not helpful and causes violence, vitriol, etc. It's not left versus right, okay? Let's just be very clear about this. It is about how ICE is treating people, the billions of dollars that they have been given through the big, beautiful bill, and they want more money, and the fact that they are treating people the way that they are treating them, violently, that they are arresting people without due process for committing no crimes, throwing them in jail without any access to making phone calls, having any access to telling people where they are. These are like basically kidnappings for weeks on end, and then people get out, and there's no consequences to these law enforcement officers that do these kinds of things. That's the problem that Americans are having right now in this country with the way that Donald Trump is handling immigration.
But on the flip
UK,
side,
you guys are doing it differently, but I feel that there's going to be a big turn with reform because you guys are having the same problems that we were having, but I know that you're not going to handle it the same way that Donald Trump is.
Well, I don't know. That's a similar thing that they were saying. But on the flip side, Nora, you've got people who are losing loved ones through people who shouldn't be here in the first place. So I hear your side of the argument, but on the other side, you wouldn't be happy if you were a mother of a daughter or someone who was killed by an illegal migrant. Nora, your thoughts?
No, you're absolutely right. It is heartbreaking to see this senseless loss of lives by criminals who've become illegal immigrants. But to the point of law and order is that not only should we be there to serve and protect the citizens of the nation, but those people who are given the responsibility, such as ICE agents, to protect us, should also be held to the same standard of abiding by the law and order and the due process, like Lori mentioned. So I think the issue isn't dealing with the criminals who are illegal in the nation. It's with the accountability when the people that are there to protect us make mistakes. Just say we made a mistake, and we know mistakes will get made because we are human. And I think that's the issue that's been polarizing. We've seen it in the Republican Party in the U.S., and we've seen it, fueling the Democrats. And it'd be nice to be able to put that to rest and then focus on the good that's being done by bringing law and order to the focus.
You have to have a deterrent. You have to have a fear factor where people come over to the country and think, oh no, I'm going to be detained. Oh no, I'm going to have an ICE-style unit on me. We cannot...
But not, oh no, I'm going to be shot while I'm on the ground 10 times.
That's not going to happen here, but
that's the problem. That's what's caused big outrage in the US, unfortunately.
But the UK is like a massive holiday camp for anyone around the world to come here, claim benefits, and run amok amongst our communities and our women. We need to make a hostile environment, and it's harsh to say, but we need to put that message out there to the world.
Well, I mean, look, I think President Trump has done a great thing. I get it that we make mistakes and things are going to go wrong, but he has pretty much, changed the tide when it comes to illegal migration. Now, I would be quite happy to see something slightly similar to ICE. We don't have guns here, though, so it wouldn't be quite the way it is in the States. I've got to say a big thank you to my brilliant panel. I have Laurie Watkins in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Laurie. Nora Lee Notson here in the UK, and Adam Brooks, thank you to you as well. And thank you to you at home for spending your night with The Late Show Live. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at midday. I don't sleep. That's true. All right, I'll see you then. Good night.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud across the UK today, but some sunshine will come through, especially for central and eastern parts of the country where it will be very mild for the time of year. A brisk south to southwesterly wind continues, and that will bring a bit more rain by the afternoon into northwestern areas, especially western Scotland, where the rain will turn heavy and persistent. However, we'll see increasing cloud breaks through the Midlands, southern and southeastern parts of England, with temperatures here reaching 15 or even 16 Celsius, so remarkably mild for the time of year. Even where we've got the rain towards the northwest, temperatures will be in the double figures, milder for much of Scotland compared with a lot of the weather so far this year. But it's a dreary end of the day for the Northern Isles into the north and northwest of Scotland. The heaviest rain will be over the West Highlands, but not much rain at all for the east and south of Scotland, just a few spits and spots. Northern Ireland, this west-east divide sets up with western parts seeing some rain, eastern areas mostly dry. Areas of cloud running through Wales and western England, but largely dry here, whilst the clearest skies overnight will be through the Midlands, the south and southeast of England. Some mist and fog to wake up to on Wednesday morning, but otherwise it's a largely dry and bright start once again for much of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing that thicker cloud and those outbreaks of rain into Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Eventually those spells of rain will push into Wales and Western England. This is a slow-moving weather front, but a damp day for many northern western parts of the country tomorrow. Meanwhile, plenty of sunshine for the East Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, and it's here where the highest temperatures will be. 17 Celsius most likely. There's a chance we'll see highs of 18 to 19 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, very, very good evening to you and welcome to Farage. With me tonight, your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's show, the former British ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, has been arrested under suspicion of misconduct in public office. And this is a developing news story, and we're bringing you all the very latest in just a moment's time. And meanwhile,
Britain is being invaded. Hundreds of thousands of men continue to arrive on our beaches illegally.
Today, Reform UK has announced its toughest migration plans yet, including an ICE-style immigration agency, as well as plans to ban visas from countries refusing to take back their own deportees. And also tonight,
the British government are applying pressure on the President and the government of the Maldives to do everything within their power to stop me getting on that boat and going to the Chagos Islands.
As Donald Trump dangles the sword of Damocles over the Prime Minister's Chagos surrender deal, it has emerged that ministers are concerned that Mauritius could now sue the UK for billions of pounds. That's all to come in tonight's show, but first, here's your latest news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 7. More on Lord Mandelson's arrest shortly, but let's bring you up to date on the rest of today's top stories. Australia's Prime Minister has written to Sir Keir Starmer to tell him he'd back any UK government plan to remove Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor from the line of royal succession. Anthony Albanese wrote in his letter to the Prime Minister that there must be a full, fair and proper investigation and that these are grave allegations and Australians take them seriously. Speaking in the House of Commons today, Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister Darren Jones said the government was ruling nothing out when it came to legislation on Andrew's position in the line of succession, adding that the government wants to allow the police to carry out their full investigation into allegations of misconduct in public office. Andrew remains 8th in line to the throne despite being stripped of his titles, including Prince, in October last year, amid pressure over his ties to paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew has denied any wrongdoing over his links to the convicted sex offender. He has not directly responded to the latest allegations. The Prime Minister's ethics watchdog will investigate Cabinet Office Minister Josh Simons following allegations a prominent think tank which he ran before entering government paid for a probe into journalists. Sir Keir Starmer's ethics advisor, Sir Laurie Magnus, will now look into whether Mr Simons, who's the Labour MP for Makerfield, broke the ministerial code during his time at the Labour Together think tank. A separate investigation by the Cabinet Office's Propriety and Ethics team has cleared Mr Simons of wrongdoing. Mr Simons himself has also denied any wrongdoing. Another breaking story just coming in from the US. Nick Reiner, the son of Hollywood director Rob and his wife Michelle Reiner, has pleaded not guilty to murdering his parents. 32-year-old Nick Reiner appeared in a Los Angeles court charged with the death of his parents, who were found with multiple stab wounds in their home in December. Reiner, who is being held in custody, will next appear in court on the 29th of April. Back at home, the government has set out major changes to the system for children with special educational needs and disabilities across England. By 2035,